Hey everybody, this is Kelly with Two Broads Talking Politics, and I am very excited tonight to have a special guest with me here. This is Tony the Democrat. Hi, Tony.
Well, hi, good evening.
Tony is here with me tonight to talk about postcards to voters. Anyone who follows our Twitter feed has already seen me talking about postcards to voters. So I'm
That's
really
very nice of you.
I'm really excited to talk to you about this. So, just in case some of our listeners do not follow our Twitter feed, shame on them. Can you tell us, just to start, what Postcards to Voters is?
Absolutely. Postcards to Voters is a grassroots volunteer organization that has been around since March of this year. So going on 9 months, if my math is right. And what we do is we handwrite fun, friendly election reminders to Democratic voters in elections across the country where it's expected that turnout is going to be low and that a boost in Democratic voter turnout might help win that election for whoever the Democrat is that's winning. And so that's basically it. We write heartfelt, genuine notes on real, old-fashioned postcards, put them in the mail, and sit back and hope that the voters take those reminders to heart and turn out in a little bit higher percentage than they might otherwise.
Great. And how did it start? You said it started in March, so what was the impetus behind it?
Well, back in March, we here where I live in Georgia's 6th Congressional District, we were in the midst of a special election to replace Tom Price, who had been our congressperson. And there were a number of Democrats and Republicans that were all on the same ballot in this special jungle primary. They were all on the same ballot, and volunteers, friends of mine, and others across the district were doing everything we could to remind Democratic voters that there was a special election. And I remember being on Facebook back in the middle of March when I got a notice from Facebook, as Facebook is, often doing, telling me that there was some comment made about John Ossoff, who was one of the candidates back then. And the comment was made in a group that I had absent-mindedly joined called Postcards for America. And I thought it was a group of people who were collecting souvenir postcards and swapping them or talking about them. Because when I travel, I like to take postcards and buy them and save them and share them and so forth. So I'm sure that I joined the group without even thinking twice when I clicked like or whatever it was that Facebook asked me to do whenever it did. And it was just curious that a group of souvenir postcard enthusiasts were somehow, for some reason, talking about John Ossoff. So I clicked on that little item to understand more. And much to my delight, I found that group was instead thousands of progressive activists who had started around January, and they were writing postcards to their elected officials, their congresspersons, or their senators, or their whoever's, and sometimes even to corporate personalities, CEOs, all in an effort to influence policy decisions with their avalanche of postcards. And I saw them talking about John Ossoff and lamenting the fact that because they did not live in Georgia, the only thing they could do was donate money.
Hmm.
And as a volunteer for the Democratic Party, the 3 counties that overlapped in the 6th Congressional District, I had a list of voters that I was supposed to be calling to remind them to go vote Democrat. Not to vote for a particular person, mind you, because there were multiple Democrats on the ballot, but just remind them of the election date, the importance of voting, and please vote for a Democrat. And these were all Democratic voters that I had on my list. So I told them, you're in luck. I have a list of voter addresses. You like to send postcards to people, and I have addresses of people that my little script that I'm supposed to read, that would fit on a postcard. So email me. I'll email you my script and 5 addresses. Take a picture of your postcard. Send it back to me so that I can see what you really wrote just so I can have a little trust. And then tell me how many more addresses you want. And that's how it started.
That's great. Yeah, I was not part of that Facebook group, but I was definitely writing a lot of postcards in January. And it felt like they were going nowhere. As much fun as it was to send nasty postcards to Donald Trump, I'm pretty sure they didn't do any good.
Well, I have a lot of friends, a lot of very dear, dear friends. And in fact, even the founder of that group, Postcards for America, because she ended up giving me permission to post on there about this little startup with the 5 people that ended up emailing me, which gradually increased as they saw how easy and fun it was. And they asked for more addresses, and they asked permission to share my email address with their own friends and their own circles of Democrats. By the end of the month, 4 weeks later, we had over 1,200 volunteers writing, and we had written to over 51,000 addresses in the 6th congressional district. So I for all of those early adopters, and my very good friend who I met just a couple weeks ago in New York, finally got to meet her after all these months to thank her in person for letting me hijack her group to promote this very different type of postcarding program. Remember, they've been writing for months, or a couple of months anyway, at the time, back in March, they were writing to elected officials, and here I come along just kind of bouncing accidentally into their group, and before you know it, we've got this new thing going, and she's never, withheld support. She's never kicked me out of the group, even though we're kind of like a different effort than what they do. It's been very, very nice, and so I know that if she were on the call, and maybe you should invite her to be a guest on a future podcast, she can speak, very eloquently about the kinds of responses that they've had for their postcards for America, to elected officials and so forth. No, I hear what you're saying, and I hear a lot of people, reflect on what they find enjoyable about participating in postcards to voters. And it's very gratifying and humbling now that we are over 7,000 volunteers strong. And I did not get the latest numbers on where we're at with total addresses written. It's definitely over 300,000, and I wouldn't be surprised if we reached the 500,000 mark by our anniversary in March of 2018. So it's very exciting.
Yeah, that's terrific. So can you tell us a little bit about yourself and if you had any experience in politics before this started?
I did, and I don't mind if you're asking. I don't mind talking a little bit about myself. I've kind of gotten used to that over the past few months as people try to figure out, well, who is this Tony the Democrat person that we're getting instructions from. I started as a precinct chair in Dallas, Texas, back in 2002 as my first footstep into activism and grassroots sort of campaigning and organizing. And a year later, I really went into the deep end, working as a volunteer, but full-time for Howard Dean and his primary race to become the nominee for president. That obviously didn't turn into what I was hoping it would when I quit my job to volunteer full-time. But what I ended up doing was finding local candidates to help. And once you get bitten by that organizing bug, I don't know if it's bitten you yet.
It's starting to.
When you realize the power of a group of people who just maybe days or weeks ago were complete strangers to each other, but somehow they found each other, coalesced around a single idea of either a person or an issue, and you're all feeling the urgency of whatever that is to pretty much the same degree. The things that you can accomplish and create and grow I'm giving myself goosebumps right now just thinking about the power that people-powered campaign for Dean showed me was possible. And we've seen it again and again in isolation, right, with the Obama campaign and with the Bernie campaign. And I think we're seeing it in a lot of different ways since the November election. As you heard me explain, this Postcards to Voters started with 5 people by accident. I guess I shouldn't send Facebook thank you notes. But if I hadn't been on Facebook that particular moment, I hadn't read their note, I still would have been, I would have struggled making my calls to finish them. But it worked out a different way, thankfully, and we have now written our 34th postcard campaign. We've got 2 more lined up after the one that we're doing in Alabama. Alabama, by the way, is our most ambitious one to date, although it's not our first statewide campaign. Pennsylvania was for a judicial bench on November 7th. But this is our biggest one by far, the most ambitious list. And depending on how big of a weekend we have, we might actually finish writing to every single Democratic household in the state, which if you'd asked me a month ago, I wouldn't have believed you that we could be that close.
Yeah, that's exciting. So obviously you are no longer getting individuals contacting you via Facebook to get every one of these addresses. So can you tell our listeners a little bit about how it works now?
Absolutely. So we did learn. I learned a lot from that first month. And in fact, before the month was over, I was being inundated with hundreds of emails a day, and ended up being lucky enough to recruit some of the best volunteer email responders to help me with that. And at the end of that effort, we all kind of took a breather and talked about what would need to be done to make things better if we were going to keep doing this, because we all had jobs and families, and we couldn't just keep answering emails by hand. And I ended up meeting a local Democrat here. I'd met him at a couple of other meetings before, and I learned that he had a particular skill, not a little skill different than Liam Neeson in those famous movies, but his particular skill was with working with text technology, interactive texting. And so we talked a little bit about what our mechanics were that we did by hand with these email address assignments. And between the two of us, we worked out a design for a way that an interactive texting software program could do some of what we did in an automated fashion. So for our second campaign, we tried it out, and we've had many enhancements to it, and now what we all affectionately call Abby, the address bot, because the address bot stands for, the initials are AB, so I decided to name her Abby because that's a lot friendlier. Abby now handles over 70%. I would even venture to guess maybe as high as 85% on some things, all the requests. And so returning volunteers who've already been vetted by us can simply text Abby at, can I say the number or should I not?
Sure, yeah, no, go ahead.
All right, I don't want to be accused of plugging my well, that's what I'm here for.
Plug away.
Plug away. So Abby's text number, now you can't call her and expect to have like a voice conversation. She doesn't do that. But you can text the word hello to 484-275-2229. And basically that spells out 484 Ask Abby. ABBY. But a lot of smart